Meeting of the Amherst Township Trustees called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Abraham?
Here.
Lynch?
Here.
Euring?
Yes.
And Kish is here. I've got the November 23rd, 2021 Amherst Township meeting minutes. The meeting was called to order at 7 p.m. by Lynch. Pledge of the flag. Roll call. Abraham, Lynch, Euring, and Kish were all present. Also in attendance, Case Marsh, G. Lynch, and R. Cerrone. 11-5-21, a motion by Euring, seconded by Abraham, to approve the minutes of the November 9th, 2021 regular meeting is corrected. All ayes. 11-6-21, a motion by Lynch, seconded by Abraham, moved to approve that the October 2021 credit card account transaction detail has been reviewed per policy and is accepted as presented subject to investigation. All ayes. 11-7-21, a motion by Euring, seconded by Abraham, moved to approve the bills and financial reports with reservations. All ayes. Trustee Lynch noted that we did receive back a response from the Lorain County prosecutor with his opinion on eligibility of paying 10 different projects within Amherst Township utilizing ARPA funds. Assistant Prosecutor Petticord's legal opinion was 7 of the 10 definitely were appropriate expenditures, and the 3 other items would need more information to determine if they are eligible. Trustee Lynch will hold off at this moment until we get more information on American Rescue Plan Act expenditure planning with S3011 passed by the Senate and currently in the House, which could make that a moot point. Under correspondence, Fiscal Officer Kish presented copies of letters to the county engineer and Lorain County Auditor that the trustees were CC'd on regarding the Lorain County Commissioners adopting Resolution Number 21-640A on October 19, 2021, finding for the improvement, confirming assessments, and order the letting of contracts for Batten House Lateral Number 2, Amherst and New Russia Township. Trustee Lynch noted the Lorain County Township Association 2021 Christmas Party will be held on Thursday, December 16, 2021, at the New Russia Township Hall starting at 6:30 p.m. Cost is $20 per person, and a reservation form is included in packets. Under reports, ambulance, there was nothing to report. Under zoning, 3 permits for the month, 5 new homes year to date, site plan review on December 7th at 6:30 p.m. for a storage unit. BZA organizational meeting will be held on January 6, 2022 at 7 p.m. Under road, park, and cemetery, Road Superintendent Smarsh reported cemeteries and parks being maintained with leaf pickup. Catch basins with the mini grant are complete. Yard waste brush pile will be ground next week. Wolf moved in equipment at Angle Ditch for cleanup. Handful of tree stumps in the parks that Kevin was hoping to get those stumps ground out. Kevin contacted Dave McKinney from D&D Stump Grinding, and Dave, who is a township resident, provided the work gratis. A huge thank you was given to Dave. Trustee Lynch gave an update to the ODOT Township Stimulus Program that Kevin and Linda, that was due November 19, 2021. It was submitted on November 17th. A lot of time went into this, and thanks was given to both Linda and Kevin. The decision will be made in late February 2022. Under LORCO, they are going to provide the wastewater treatment plant for Cinnamon Lakes. Under complaints, they are being handled by the designated individual. Under new business, packets contain historical information on pavement, subgrade chemical stabilization, and street standard review and stabilization. Trustee Lynch wanted to bring it up to the trustees to decide what process we should follow on this. Hampshire is going 12 inches in their development. If we pass a resolution, keep in mind that it will also have to go to the commissioners to also approve a resolution, so it will not be a quick process. The trustees agreed to have a meeting with Bob Klaber from the county engineer office and have them tell us what they want, and we will do that. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be December 14th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Amherst Township Hall. The end of the year and 2022 organizational meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 21st, 2021 at 7 p.m. 11-8-21, a motion by Euring, seconded by Abraham, to adjourn at 8:05 p.m. All ayes.
Okay, are there any changes or corrections to the November 23rd, 2021 meeting minutes?
No, not as far as I see.
Can I have a motion then to approve?
So moved. Second.
Euring,
Yes.
Abraham,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Okie dokie. Then you have financials in front of you. I have the listing of the payment listing if there's any questions regarding Anything on there that stands out? Our year-to-date revenue is $1,636,132.96. Our year-to-date expenditures are $917,177.38. And I am working on wrapping everything up for next week.
Do we have any large bills coming in between now and the end of the year?
The
Plus we
largest
have our
might
fourth-
be, you haven't received the backhoe yet, and that timing will determine when that one gets paid, David.
We got
But
salt
that
in.
could be even in
Salt?
next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
you just gave me that, didn't you? The slip, or it's coming, is what you...
It's coming.
You hear that?
Yeah. Maybe.
We've received the salt, just
Just
not.
not the
Oh,
invoice. Yeah, and that's all a contract price, so. Are there any other questions on the bills or financials then? All right, can I have a motion to pay the bills and approve the financial reports with reservation, please?
So move.
Second,
Keurig,
Yes.
Abraham,
yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Anything else there, Chris?
Well, the only thing that I did have is I did mention at the last meeting, David, if you would pass these down to Benny and Neil, that would be great, that the city of Lorraine had contacted me regarding taxes that were not or they were withheld, but never paid to the city of Lorraine. So they did provide me the W-2s that they had received. And in
David, this one's for
2016...
you.
In 2016, there was no withholding that was remitted. It was $258.02 that is due. And in 2017, they only received $30.88 out of the $55.76 that was due. So they are removing penalties as a one-time courtesy, so the balance due for both of those is $282.90. And I told them I would bring it to the board tonight to hopefully square up with them and get this taken care of.
Have you been able to trace back those amounts?
Yeah, that is, I mean, they have the W-2 right here that was printed from us. Howard just did not pay it to the city.
I mean,
But
but
it was withheld
It was
from the
withheld,
W.
yes.
Yeah, there it is. I see the copy and, yeah. Well, it's something that it was owed to them. It has to be paid. It'll be paid. Fortunately, it's a small amount.
Right.
I don't know how that got missed. It obviously the W-2 showing it correctly. You're not going to be able to talk with the individual since he's no longer with us. His long-term employee that's passed on.
Well, I just
Chris,
wanted
yeah.
to give you the paperwork that you had requested.
Yeah, we just wanted to verify because we weren't sure what they were looking at. You've gone through now, since you've had the detail, who the specific employee is, you could check back on those records to verify
Yes.
it. So, okay.
you were able to go back and check on the numbers and,
Well, I went back on the withholding payments of what was paid to Lorraine, and it was not,
It was not.
no. Just the one payment of $30.88.
you really need anything from us as a board? It's just,
No, Neil just asked me, he said, don't pay until
Yeah, we wanted to
have...
verify
Right.
it. You can't just
Okay.
go because somebody
No,
says you
no,
owe
no.
us money. You
no,
gotta-
exactly, Neil. Exactly.
That's what Chris did, and now you've got the information. So.
So you have paid it, or are you going?
I will pay it for
Yeah,
next week.
It'll be in the next
Don't
payment
need an
register,
invoice.
and that's when we'll approve it with the paying of those bills.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Chris?
That is it.
All right, there are two additional items under the financials. We'll handle them in the order of the agenda. The first one is on the American Rescue Plan Act funds, and You've got in your packet just the summary spreadsheet that Linda's put together. I believe you've only sent it so far just to Chris and I because it's in draft format, correct? And but if you recall, is just as in the CARES Act, is Linda's helping to keep tabs on all these individual items for the eventual audit, and also this, with the showing that they are eligible expenses and how you trace them back. And the document you have currently in your packet shows the $146,153 dollars to date, but Linda did provide an update, which I laid at your place, and what she included is now Kevin got with her and has all of the labor hours and equipment usage also predominantly used in the stormwater projects, and particularly much of that in the catch basin work that was done internally. And so now the total, the best estimate is $168,414 that's been used so far of the roughly $301,000 that we received in that first tranche by way of the federal government through the state of Ohio. And as we've discussed before, we've allotted most of the money, even though we know things can change. That money has to be allotted by December 2024 and then spent by December of 2026. Hopefully, just as in the CARES Act, we get all of this done ahead of that. But I just want to give you that update since Linda just got it out, and after she gets further along, if you want to see the spreadsheet, just be aware it's a constant living document. You'll see it's very detailed in putting everything together. So I don't think we'll have any issues once the audit comes, as long as we still have same personnel here at the time of that audit. I also have on the rear of the document of the spreadsheet that was put in your packet, you'll see there's 2 pages, and I did forward this email to you also. We had at the last meeting, we reported on the prosecutor had approved 7 of the 10 items. The other 3 items he said he'd need more information. Well, one of those items that he mentioned he'd need more information on is just the portion of the newsletter that is dedicated to the stormwater. But at this point, I'm sure we're going to go ahead and get that approved by the prosecutor. I'm just hesitant to be pushing him to be spending more time and researching it and giving a formal written opinion when we know that the federal government's already looking at going through with a bill that would say, well, for the first $10 million, you can just use it for your regular township services or any community services without keeping the detailed justification. Realize $10 million for us just seems like huge, that'd be roughly like 7 to 8 years of full budgets for us, but for some of the larger cities and counties, that's a very small portion of what they received in ARPA funds. But since we had our last meeting, the prosecutor was at a meeting of Lorraine County Township Association where the EPA was present, and they even discussed for your stormwater management program, where they're putting on additional requirements, and they really emphasized the public education, outreach, and involvement, which our number one thing is through our newsletter, so that then we can give them specifically how many households we touch with that, show them what the information is, which we have to report on, when they do our stormwater report every year. So I don't see how we say that's not stormwater when the whole reason is comply with the Phase 2 requirements of the EPA for stormwater cleanliness, and the quality and cleanliness of the stormwater is the one requirement that's written in the ARPA funds. So it's not just stormwater, it's to keep it clean. So what I did in this email, and Chris, this is where it's really going to come down to you and how we account for these funds for the future audit. I don't want a year to pass And then it gets more difficult to go back, say in 2022, you're paying for expenditures in 2021. You know, unless that's going to be, you know, not going to be difficult for you, we can do it. I know that, according to one of the webinars I sat in, they said, yes, we definitely can go back in previous years if they were eligible expenses. I just don't know what you have to do in the UAN system, though, in accounting for that. Does it become a record-keeping nightmare to show to an auditor, you know, especially if the auditors think about it 3-4 years out from here, looking back at something they've already audited. You know, and that now we're paying.
Once the year's closed, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's why what I'm putting here, and Georgianne's going to have to get it, and she'll probably do it based on a proportion column inches, which is what we discussed before, and take total of all costs in producing the newsletter, and say that's the portion that went to stormwater. So I just assume, since this covers expenditures beginning March 3rd, 2021, that to avoid that complexity, we go ahead and pay it. You know, I can get more information to the prosecutor, which is what he indicated on, in this being one of the 3 items, to give, here's more detail as to why we feel this is justified. But again, realize I want to hold off on that till we see what action the federal government takes on this, because then there may be no need to put him through that. You know, realize they go through a research opinion. If you look at the last one, it's very detailed. That's a lot of expense for somebody to go through. You know, and we're not talking huge dollars here to begin with. So, you know, I just don't want to make things more difficult. So Georgianne will get you that information, and then we can pay that portion. She'll also get the information to Linda to include in the spreadsheet. And we can get 2021 done and be focused on 2022. Okay, so you've all got that email. So that's, unless there's any questions on the ARPA fund and the expenditures, and I'll leave Linda, when you get a chance, just send that email out so the others can at least see how you've got things organized and tying them together. Did you have a question there?
Yeah, I do. On the 122,852 for the backhoe, since potentially we're not going to get it until 22, do we want to take it off this original 21 spreadsheet and move it to year 22?
Well, we may. Why don't we just wait and see what happens when Southeast is able to get that? Because for all we know, it may come in here at the end. You know, they'll be going into, I forget when those contracts ended, because some of them go, you know, over several months in the year, but I'm sure Department of Administrative Services is going to be bidding all new ones here, but we still have that price locked in.
Okay, we'll just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, just if it goes over, you'll have to, you know, just move it over.
Okay.
Okay. I will point out, it does show on here, Linda has hers formatted a little bit, but I want to show you, like, even on the catch basins, you see there was $12,590. That was with sandstone excavating. Well, realize the actual bill was $17,590, but we had $5,000 of that was paid with the stormwater mini grant, so only $12,590 is eligible for ARPA funds. So that's, if somebody goes back and looks at the invoice, why is that different? And she'll have that explained on the spreadsheet. Okay? All right, if there's no other questions then on the ARPA funds and expenditures, we'll move on. Chris also has the detail put together for the 2022 temporary budget. So you do have the resolution in front of you, and you can see the appropriations without going through each individual fund is $1,732,534 total in there. But as you're all aware, this is just, it's a requirement, but we can be changing these appropriations as the year moves on. And I mean, Linda's just brought up one of them, like if what we expected to spend in 2021 doesn't happen and gets moved to 2022. But anyway, I'll make the We've got the temporary annual appropriation measure for 2022 per Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.38. I'm going to make this motion that to provide for the current expenses and other expenditures of the Amherst Township Board of Trustees during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022, that the following sums be and the same are hereby set aside and temporarily appropriated for several purposes for which expenditures are to be made for and during said fiscal year. But again, I'm not going to read through all the details there. And then Chris will get the copies of this resolution, once it's approved, over to the Budget Commission, the county auditor. So that'll be my motion.
Second.
Are there any questions on this?
Lynch?
Yes.
Euring?
Yes.
Abraham?
Yes.
12-3.
12-3. Okay, at this time, I'd like to welcome everyone in attendance. Does anyone have any issue to bring before the trustees? Okay, and seeing none, what I'm going to do is take this out of order since we have Fire Prevention Officer Chris Nyhart here and Amherst Fire Department Chief Wilhelm. We'll give them the opportunity, just because we know there's been times they get called out in the middle of a meeting. I think that happened the last time you guys were both here. But you got your report in before that. So, do you have anything specific to bring up?
We're still working our way through the businesses in the township. We have some new businesses taking up old buildings. So we're trying to get to those once they get in and get settled. So there's 3 or 4 buildings that are occupied by new tenants now. So we're trying to get to those once they get in and get settled and stop paying bills.
Okay, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, and just, so you guys are aware, and Chief Wilhelm, I spoke with you about the fire service agreement. I never got back, so I did call the mayor immediately after that, and Mayor Costello is going to get a new agreement over to us. I thought I would have had it already, because I did let him know we were meeting tonight, but I don't, so if it's not the next meeting, it'll probably have to be a special meeting or run into the first meeting in January.
Yeah, that's fine. He's working on it. He's contacted me a couple times, questions about it. Looking at a 5-year plan, correct?
Well, I mentioned to him that, yes, if we can extend it, I didn't say we had to, because I wasn't sure, we've had 3 years and 5 years back and forth. My preference is that we have the 5 years. So I told the mayor I hadn't discussed it with my fellow trustees yet, but I don't see them objecting either.
No.
I have a couple of questions. Number one, we were seeing a spike in coal getting in. We had numerous falls out here in the township, Big Valley, and other places. I just wanted you guys to be aware of that. We're running roughly 4 to 5 calls a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Not all of them are in the township, but, there's quite a few. Kind of been hit and miss here and there. Probably running like 4 EMS calls to 1 fire call right now, on average.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make you aware of it as spiked.
What are you getting? People can't breathe, or?
It's difficulty breathing, and then we always have the 911 does their thing with the COVID positive or possible. They give it to us over our text. It says on there, person positive or person probable. So there's quite a few. I don't know. COVID money, if we have any left, you're going to get this next quarter, there should be quite a few.
Yeah, I don't think we had that from the CARES Act, and as you're aware, the difficulty was things can change if the feds change things, but the way the American Rescue Plan Act was, and we had this discussion, we couldn't use those with our fire personnel like we could even with EMS. We couldn't use it for safety forces like we were able to use the CARES Act funds, unless there were people specifically dedicated, like some of the larger cities have done. We're not large enough to do that, with a, paid volunteer force, and working at where, 911 prompts the caller to find out, yes, there's a potential, so that, the personnel know what protective gear they need or how to handle it. So unfortunately, in the last update, and I just checked this, I think was November, on the frequently asked questions, they've still changed nothing for safety forces on that. So it was much easier with the CARES Act.
Yes.
So we're kind of having to pay that out of the fire fund. And we've got as you're aware, we've got a healthy balance. What we're doing right now, our cost is pretty much equal to what comes in as far as the known amount, but if the calls are higher, we're paying out more, but we're paying out of that carryover we have. So,
I'm sure you all read the newspapers, aware of what's going on at Life Fair.
yeah,
We had a meeting with the powers to be over there, and they assured us that solvent and operations are as normal. Sad situation.
it is.
Other places, Leary, they're talking about buying a squad and speaking of that backup. It's I don't know, it's going to be things planning the future, how things went past North Central and position. I don't know if this is anything like those two were. I think it's something we probably should keep our eye on.
Right.
Other than that, one of them. I know we do a lot of installs like smoke detectors. We actually had some money donated to us by some of the organizations. VFW donated some money to buy smoke detectors. Well, we're getting to the point where a lot of people are calling, we're running out of smoke detectors. I know we come out here to township and do it too, simply because our fire district. But, I was just wondering if there's any kind of money funding or something. Who does the smoke detectors or something.
We look at it, what are the how do you determine who gets a smoke detector?
Well, we usually do it for the elderly. Yeah. And they call the department down in Quarry Lakes. There's a bunch of elderly people down here. They call us. We actually go down here and change batteries in them for them. And we do put up new smoke detectors. We've been over here in Hidden Valley and we put some in for some people. And they call us and say, hey, our batteries are bad. Can you guys come back? And we do.
I mean, that's a nice service. I just don't, we'll have to discuss that, Chief. I mean, that's like who changes the light bulbs in your house or takes care of your furnace.
If some of these older people, they just can't get on a ladder and do that. Or we're going to get an emergency call to go out there and pick them up off the floor.
Yeah.
It's just something we do as a service.
But that's why I was asking, what's the criteria? Is it, okay, you're saying the elderly. Is it somebody that has to have physical limitations? Is it by age? Is it by income? I mean, if that's the case, if someone's going to pay for my smoke detectors and CO detectors, you can come out and change mine too. And I'll call you every year when I change my batteries, though now we've got the ones that don't need the batteries. You see, I realize it's a good service, but everything has a cost, and then what are the criteria to determine who gets it and who doesn't?
Well, people have been pretty good. We're not flooded with calls.
They didn't know it was available. Now they will when they see this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Through them, basically.
Okay. But see, that was the same thing with with our senior services, you know, even with the meals, it was based on ability to pay. One, you had to meet, and we had the requirements, because at one time we used to receive a partial grant, and that spelled out, you know, 18 and over disabled, 60 and over as far as a senior. Then it listed, based on the poverty guidelines, what percentage of the meal cost you paid. From the township's perspective, I think we're usually around $5,500 a year. We were subsidizing out of the general fund for meals, if I
Yeah.
recall.
I think so.
And,
That's about right.
but realized some residents were paying the full amount and actually paying part of the administrative costs. So even people that had the ability to pay were paying more than what the cost of the meal was. You know, because there were others that their revenue, their income was so low, they just needed something to eat and someone to check up on them. So, you know, it's up to the other trustees here. We can certainly look at it. I don't know what their feelings would be, but,
Well, I would think get your point, sir. I mean, I've had actually people from credit card, just that over there. My daughter lives over there, fixed income, a few kids, and there's no smoke detector.
yeah.
I agree with you.
Tell you there, my thoughts are, you know, is this something that we can spend the money on? That's the first thing I'm gonna look at. Certain things we can spend our fire funds on, certain things, other things we can't. We gotta make sure this would be appropriate. The second thing would be this, something in general that the township can do is buy smoke detectors for people. I don't know, and then as echoing what Neil says, under what criteria, who's gonna be the person that gets them? Or just to be nice, are we just gonna give out free smoke detectors? Last time I looked into a smoke detector, it was, you know, pushing $20. So, one smoke detector, two smoke detectors, how many do you need? You know,
At least
in a
every
house?
floor.
So, you know, right there, a smoke detector could be multiple smoke detectors, and that's, you know, $20 a pop. It's,
They've helped us. Well, there's,
I have nothing to say.
what we're gonna be
Can
getting
you-
into.
I think, I'll tell you what, David, just for the one, can you actually, I have to go crazy on it, but can you have discussions as far as first with the prosecutor's office, just on if we even have the ability to do something like that? And it'd be both the general fund and the fire fund, though, you know, obviously the fire fund would be the most appropriate. I mean, just first off, to find out if we even have that authority. And then Chief, just for you, because you mentioned about a specific individual and fixed income and cost, maybe it needs to be publicized more, but I know that Lorraine County Jobs and Family Services, they still have not spent all that rental support revenue they received.
That's what, I was gonna bring that up to you, because I think there's money out there, and you guys, as an entity of trustees, get some of that money for stuff like that. I can't, you know, I can only do so much on mine.
Okay.
I thought the Red Cross at one time had money for stuff like that, and there's a few other agencies out there that are willing to get forward. They actually will purchase them, or give you the money to purchase them, and then you make the decision on how you want to distribute them. Don't get me wrong, I'm not here to say you need to go into your fire levy and buy me smoking guns. I'm not asking that. I'm asking if you as an entity can maybe find some funding or something. I mean, we go to the Eagles, we go to the Legion, the VFW, and they give us money for things, like that.
And then the fire personnel would actually do the installation? Is that really what it comes down
I
to?
requested ones. we've had people where we have just given them to them, you know, if they, you know, maybe their grandson or something comes up and, you know, smoke detectors in grandma's house because they're bugging her and going on. And we go to false alarm calls, that costs a lot more than a smoke detector.
Maybe, suppose you're making the call between community development, jobs and family services, and the Red Cross, just if you can check into it, David, and assuming the prosecutor's probably going to say, no, you don't have the authority to use township funds, maybe the other groups, as the chief suggested, might have the ability to enter in there, what they might be able to do. Okay.
What I can do.
I appreciate it. So we'll see if David can do some digging on it, you know, and see what we can come up with. But
This as a suggestion, I don't know if any other townships have done this same thing, gotten.
yeah, and I don't know, Chief, you know, realize some of the others will have their own fire departments, and I don't know if they apply for some of those other emergency grants. You know, if they're there, as you're aware, we can technically apply, because heck, this is going way back to Chief Zilch. I remember working with him on the tanker truck. You know, that was an odd thing. Well, once we looked at it, you know, okay, here's these funds available to fire departments, but we could not apply, you know, for those particular grants because we didn't have our own department. We were just contracting for the service. You know, so it just seemed odd. There's money made available, that's federal dollars, all of our tax dollars, but we weren't eligible, even though we're providing a service, because it's not our fire department. But we'll check and see what we can do. It's,
Yeah, just, you know, just asking.
okay.
We can find different ways.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
Pardon me?
Do you have anything else?
We were discussing the light preemption system.
Right.
Do you think that the proper way would be to go through the state first?
It might be, yeah, and just so, let me bring Dave and Denny up to speed here. I'd asked the chief, I was at a meeting where State Senator Nathan Manning was there, and Representatives Joe Miller, who is our rep, and Representative Dick Stein, and they were discussing the state capital budget. And they've now, the applications are available at this time, which was a couple weeks ago. The applications weren't even out yet. The Senate at that time, and hopefully they've got it, hadn't even set their schedule, but the House had, and it was going to be in March. As far as having everything complete and available to consider a state capital budget. And I had just asked the chief if he thought that this would be eligible as a capital expenditure. And if we submit that request, I don't think it's that difficult on these applications, though I haven't looked at the detail myself. But then the question comes up, since it's dealing with the traffic signals, we've got those that are owned by ODOT, we've got those that are owned by the county. So who submits the application? You know, it doesn't seem like if we submitted the application, you get it approved, well, neither one of those entities has to do what we ask them to do. But do we have, I don't know if there's a joint application or even how to proceed there. But just if you guys have no objection, if we can look into it anyway, I mean, it'd just be a call either to Representative Miller or Senator Manning's office, and they'll give us a yes or no, and if it's a yes, they're probably going to leave it up to us to find out. Now we'll have to be checking between the county and the state, and I'll probably start with the county engineer's office, who will also know all this ODOT personnel to say, hey guys, here's what we want to do, but the one that the chief is most interested in is an ODOT-owned traffic signal. but we've got several, and maybe we can get the state capital funds to help cover the cost.
Did you receive the copies of the letters that were sent?
Yeah, you emailed, well, I received the ones you emailed to me. I don't know that I received everything you've got there with you.
Well, I actually, few of the places I didn't get a response from, state patrol. I did get one from Lorraine County Sheriff, Southern Lorraine County Ambulance, they come up through.
Yeah,
Amherst Police Department, South Amherst Fire Department. Lorraine County and our stuff. Joe Miller sent his request to Transportation District 3 in Ashland.
mm-hmm,
And that's the one that handles this area.
right, right.
I didn't hear the answer from anyone, so I have to go back.
Well, they might, the two we've dealt with most there, Jeff Rogers and Steve Shepard, and ODOT. I'm sure Representative Miller probably sent it to their boss, but
Yeah.
well, that's one, I'll check on it. I mean, it's just a phone call,
Yeah.
to find out, and they can tell us one way or the other. I do know both applications are now available, and I think that was as of last Friday.
And I'll do a little searching myself, I can see if I can hold the everything. I have called down to Ashland a few times. I've gotten any satisfaction.
Yeah, usually the best way to reach them is through email. That's been our experience.
Email down there, I've heard from.
Oh, well.
State Patrol and down there.
Okay, well, I can tell you just my experience, but realize we're going individuals over specific programs. They've gotten back and they pretty much tell us, do it by email, not by phone. I think some of that is so it's clear what you're asking, and then they have a record for it and it's searchable, so. But they have generally responded to the emails. But yeah, phone call, you won't always get a response.
I've emailed and tried to phone call.
Yeah,
Satisfaction either one.
maybe they don't like you.
That may
Yeah. Well, now you're talking federal money. I don't think there's a federal traffic signal here. I don't recall if the infrastructure bills will cover that, but maybe you can say it's for broadband internet?
Yeah, well, we're working with that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. I'll get back to you, Chief. I'll at least check on that if it's an eligible project for state capital funds, and who knows, even between ODOT and the county, that might make them more acceptable to it. Because I don't think anybody's opposed to putting it in, it's just a matter of the cost, and then the ongoing maintenance, because everything's going to have maintenance. We already know, you specified you want the ones that have the auditory response to it, so that it'll be multiple disciplinary, whether it's the highway patrol, whether it's an ambulance, whether it's a fire, sheriff, everybody coming through will set those. And, we've seen just recently in the news where there was another accident between an ambulance crew going through. But I'll definitely check on it, and I'll get back to you.
Okay,
Okay, then we'll move back into the agenda on correspondence. Chris?
None.
Okay, David?
I have nothing to bring forward at this time.
Okay, Denny?
Nothing.
Everything I have deals with an agenda item. Let me get this note down so I don't forget. I made a promise to the chief. I think I got this on my list at home, too. All right, we'll move on to reports in the ambulance. Denny?
Nothing under ambulance, and just so you know, we are, as an ambulance board, we're only meeting once a year.
Oh,
And we can do that according to the contract, and we checked it with prosecuting attorney, and we could do that. We checked it with Jerry Ennis before he left, but we're only meeting once a year, so
well, maybe in light of the change that just happened, maybe there'll be more frequent meetings. Okay, sheriff's not here. Zoning, zoning inspector Cerrone.
Well, we had 2 permits for the month, for both accessory buildings. And the new houses year-to-date stands at 5. Other than that, pretty much all.
Are there any questions for Remy?
Remy, do you see any other houses this year? Since there's only 2 weeks left.
I don't see any more for this year.
Okay,
There may be one, that I'm thinking of, I'll stop there.
all righty.
That might be coming tomorrow. Other than that,
Do you have in the 5, do you have that one out here on Oberlin Road?
correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, and I did want to mention the trustees, I don't know if Chris forwarded that email from Joan to
did.
everyone? Okay.
So the trustees, yes.
Okay, and only because she's here, you see Joan Whitman is sitting out in the audience. Joan's been with us for some time on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and she served her last meeting. She will be resigning. I still remember when Joan and her husband Bobby first came to a township meeting. I think it was a complaint about something, and it was actually good in getting the opportunity to meet them with their concerns and showing a real interest. But Joan's represented us well on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I know the other members appreciated all of the information, insight that she provided, but it is her last BZA meeting. She did attend, so we will be filling her slot. And I just, since we had the opportunity to personally thank you, wanted to do that, Joan, versus just, typically we'll send someone out a real quick, short note that's signed by the trustees, but a lot easier to see you here, but thank you. Yeah.
It's been that long, Jim.
Yeah, the time really flies,
Thank you for your years of service, Joan.
Okay, roads, parks, and cemetery Superintendent Smarsh.
The yard waste grinding pile was ground last week, and it is slated to be hauled away next week, and which would take 3 days, is what I'm told. We had our first load of 100 ton of salt delivered. That was yesterday. And we've been on leaf cleanup, and I believe tomorrow we will be completed with that. But that's basically what we've been doing, is in the cemeteries, the parks, roads, catch basins, leaf cleanup.
I asked Chris, and I know it's tough because you don't have the invoices. I've got them over here, but you have to dig it out. We had let me find it here. Barnes Nursery for the grinding. Is that invoice, is there still another one to come then for the haul away, or is that included?
That's all, that's it.
Okay. Just want to get that, because then Linda's going to need to know one way or the other, and now you know which way to go on the spreadsheet.
It's already
Already on
listed.
All right, well, hang on, Kevin. If the trustees go in your packet, you've got, in dealing with roads, a couple of items. The first item is for Round 36. This was in the newspaper that Lorraine County Engineer Ken Carney, who chairs the Ohio Public Works Commission for District 9 Integrating Committee, announced the projects that were approved. And on the rear of that and I know it's very small printing, but this was the actual spreadsheet with the scoring methodology for the state capital improvement program. And there are actually two projects there that affect Amherst Township. The first one, it's actually awarded to the city of Amherst. That's for Middle Ridge Road rehab in the amount of $2,171,000. Of that, $825,000 would be grant, $325,000 would be loan. Now that's what the current request is based on the engineer's estimate. I know the city uses Bramhall Engineering. The township, in this case, the city of Amherst will be the lead on the project, but they're paving the full section, including the portion within Amherst Township, and then the Board of Trustees will pay their proportionate share through an agreement that we have with the city that was included with the funding request to Ohio Public Works Commission. So fortunately, that one was approved. You'll see the scoring. The highest anyone scored was 59 points. That one scored in at 50. The second project, which is the one, again, this is going to be two communities, Amherst Township and the city of Amherst, on South Dewey Road, actually in the northern portion going up to North Ridge, so between North Ridge and Park. But in this case, the township will be the lead agency since most of the road is in the township and a small portion is in the city. That's a much smaller project. That's $104,700. The grant portion, $77,478. A loan portion, $12,397. And again, in this case, the city will pay their proportionate share based on the road mileage in the city versus the total of the project. And fortunately, that one just squeaked in with a score of 47. There's right below that, and I didn't print the other ones out here, but there's a whole slew of projects throughout the district that scored at 46 that are just below that. So we did get both of those projects in, which is good. Keep in mind, too, this isn't for Chris, I know, so you don't choke on when it comes time to pay it, that these are going to happen. Our payment will be over 2 years because the city of Amherst and the mayor had even explained this ahead of time, that we've got 2 years upon the award and approval, which won't occur until July, but the city will actually be doing this in the succeeding year, so we won't really have to pay out for that portion until 2023. So we're still only going to have one road project payment a year, so it's it's not going to crimp the road budget there. I did want to bring that to your attention if you hadn't seen it. I know that Mark Cunningham did forward to all the elected officials in the township as far as the final spreadsheets, but most of the others don't apply to us. There's some for the smaller communities under 5,000. There's some funding they can apply for that we're not eligible for since we're above 5,000 residents. Then the next item dealing with roads, this is just so that to button it up, you heard in Chris reporting in the minutes that the trustees would meet with County Engineer Bob Kleiber in regards to our road standards, and that's because there's always been that question coming up as far as soil stabilization. And for Amherst Township, we have road specifications for both, whether it's a residential area or whether it's commercial industrial, both dealing with concrete streets and talking about using cement soil stabilization. There's a question as to, hey, do you do that carte blanche, as which our standards currently are, or do you only do that as needed after a proof roll or only in the sections where it's needed? And I'm not going to go into all the different factors that can impact that, but the trustees had a very detailed discussion with Bob Kleiber 2 weeks ago on Monday, and Denny helped organize that meeting with the engineer. But what this email indicates, after a lot of discussion with Bob Kleiber, is we sent over our current road standards. In addition, I sent over the road standards for the city of Amherst. Not like I'm choosing Amherst, it was just we surround your community. People, as they drive through the roads, don't really see a difference. Some don't even distinguish whether in the township or the city. So just for comparisons, Amherst were somewhat similar to our road standards. But as the prosecutors indicated to us in the past, the trustees don't technically have any authority to set street standards. What we did is the engineers were asking the townships, tell us what you want, and they'll go ahead and comply. And then technically what they had to do was run that through the Lorraine County Board of Commissioners. This was, I think, back in 2003 where our standards were last updated. And the Board of Commissioners then sets those street standards to be part of the subdivision review process. And so, you know, even though we can influence that and put in what our desires are, technically, it's the county engineer that sets the street standard. So in any case, we had, where this had come up was Hampshire Farms Development, and we told them up front, comply with the existing standards or better, because time-wise, we're never going to get this through to meet their time deadline. You know, as we're all aware, they were delayed waiting for the sewer agreement to get done. But they've asked us, well, at least could we consider it for the sandstone development? And we said, yes, we would, but, you know, for this to meet the schedule is now it's back to the county engineer. The county engineer can adjust those standards, send it to us, where we're in agreement. Realize from the trustee standpoint, our biggest things that we all agreed on was going to be the drainage specification, include that, the lighting specifications that we have in there, and then as far as the having some sort of guarantee on the roads for a period of time. So those are kind of what we put in place. And so then as far as soil stabilization, which is the largest thing, and the thickness of the concretes, we also put in, we prefer the concrete streets versus the asphalt streets that some of the townships ask for. So we'll just have to wait till the county engineer gets these back to us. When they do, we can decide to approve them. It will then go to the County Board of Commissioners, and the County Board of Commissioners would have to pass a resolution to include this in the subdivision review regulations. So, and you know, at this point, hopefully it meets the deadline for this new development. Regardless, the worst case is it'll be done to the current standards, and they'll actually probably would go above our standards depending upon the time of year, which is what they had to do here at Hampshire Farms. They went even above the standard that we specify. Our standards are a minimum standard. So I just wanted to bring that up to you, and Chris, so you're aware in the minutes that the trustees are still working on that. I left it as a separate agenda item, but I just wanted to cover that under roads since we're dealing with roads right now. Okay, and then I have one other item to cover that's in your packet, and this is dealing with NOPEC. We just received notice from NOPEC that they are offering the community event sponsorship again, and based on the number of customers for gas and electric in Amherst Township, we have $1,500 available for 2022. You know, in our case, that's the minimum they give out. You know, realize a lot of the other communities are much larger, and what we can see is the number of people that are going with NOPEC is decreasing. I'm sure a lot of that is because of the marketing that's done with the other utility companies. Matter of fact, before I came down here, I just erased from our phone another marketing thing that was offering me a nice gift card if I switch from NOPEC to somebody else on my electrical service. And they're pretty regular, and they run anywhere from $20 to $50 they'll give you, and they give you great rates. that are usually for 6 months to a year, and then you don't realize it. It's like the old boiling a frog. Next thing you know, you're paying double or triple the rates that you get if you just stick with what you had. But if somebody plays the game and keeps tabs on it, you can save a little bit of money, but how much effort you want to put into that and have to make sure you change over every single year, because you get once a year to change it at no cost. But the one wrinkle they changed differently here, and Linda, this is, I know we didn't discuss it, but if you just copy the previous grant here, is if we get this in by, let's see, it's actually due March 31st, but if we get it in early, I don't know if this document, that was in the email, I didn't print out the email. Here it is, by February 15th, you go into a drawing where we could double the amount, but realize there's such a large number of these, I don't know that we'll actually, let's not get our hopes up on something with the lottery, but we've always met the deadline. It's just that I know NOPEC's always pushing on people to hit the deadline, and then they've extended the deadline. Assuming they stick to their word here, they're saying they're not going to extend it this time. So it's up to each community to, meet the deadlines on this grant, which is March 31st. I'll put that down. I've got one other item to report on, and then I'll open it up for the other items, and we will need an executive session on personnel before we leave tonight, is as far as the stormwater grant, the next funding through Lorraine County Stormwater District, the grant is due also March 31st of 2022. I left messages with Pete Zawick, and this time it's with an individual, so they're going to hand pass the message to them as far as getting together to start meeting as to how much of the bat house ditch we can do. From our standpoint, the way we look at it, it's the amount of cost. So how much we can pay, since we can only bite it off a little bit at the time. I did leave in the message to meet either at 8 o'clock. I just put 8 o'clock in every one, so it's the same time for you, Linda. At either Thursday, the 16th, Tuesday morning, the 21st, which is also the same day as our org meeting in the evening, or on Thursday, December 23rd at 8, so all of them at 8 o'clock as far as available times, and I'm just assuming, David and Denny, that you guys would be available then. I'm just,
You
again,
said Tuesday, the 21st is our meeting, correct?
Tuesday, the 21st is our meeting at
Which is a
7
week from
o'clock in the
today.
evening, but I'm asking Pete to meet with us in the morning so that he could be here when Kevin and Linda are here. But I don't know yet till I hear back from him if he'll be available. And then Linda's got the overhead map and the list. The list is almost a year old as far as all the current property owners, but property hasn't really been changing hands that frequently in that area. There's not a whole lot of homes that have transferred or property, so that list will be fairly accurate. But I'll get back to you when I hear back from Pete if he's even available on one of those dates. But, we need from him first the detailed engineering estimate, and we'll let him know. In the past, what we've said, we do not want to go more than 5% of our general fund budget when we look at what we're providing. So we're really talking like roughly $20,000. Now, it's a little different because ARPA funds would definitely cover this, but we don't want to suck all of that up on this when all our residents and businesses are also paying into stormwater district funds. We want some of those funds to come back to the people that are paying for it. So hopefully we hear back from Pete soon, and but those are the dates that I provided when I called in. So all of them at 8 o'clock. Okay. So if he picks Tuesday, we'll have 2 meetings that day, one in the morning and one in the evening. So that's all I had to cover. I don't know, David, of the items on the agenda for your responsibility, do you have anything to bring forward?
At this time, no, just that I did receive an extension till the 31st on the solid waste grant final report. because of the delay in getting the grindings done, because we just couldn't get the grindings done.
Okay. So you've got everything you need now, though?
Pretty much, yeah. We're putting that together shortly.
All right, Denny, anything else?
Nothing, no.
Okay, for everyone else here, and the reality is, Kevin and Linda, you won't have to stay, or Remy, the executive session, I just need the elected officials here right now. Okay? So if there's, and we won't be taking any action when we come back from executive session. So this is going to be, I'm going to make a motion that we enter into executive session for ORC 121.22 G, get the right one. G1, which is the one considering appointment, employment, dismissal, promotion of employees. I'm not going to read through all the details.
I second it.
Lynch,
Yes.
Abraham,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and 8:10.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we return from executive session to the regular session at 9:15 PM.
I'll second it.
Lynch,
Yes?
Abraham,
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Okay, our next meeting will be the end of 2021, end of year, and 2022 organizational meeting. That will be on Tuesday, December 21st at 7 o'clock PM. We still have, as far as the meeting on December 28th, we'll hold that meeting as if it's still there, but just realize, depending upon where bills are, we may cancel that, but we're just going to keep it on the schedule as it stands right now.
So our next scheduled meeting is the 21st.
So December 21st at 7 o'clock PM. You know, once I hear back from Pete Zawick, realize there's a potential we may meet that morning also, but we'll try and work it around Pete's schedule as to when he's available.
Okay.
Okay? All right, is there any other business?
No.
Not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second it?
Gary,
Yes.
Abraham,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.